Hello and welcome. Leela slows down Houdini's kingside attack, advances on the queen side, gives up her queen and two central pawns for a rook and two knights, and then wears down Houdini. With white we have Mighty Houdini, the famous top 4 engine, and with black we have Leela Test 30, the same version that played the TCCC Super Final against Stockfish. And this is a Slav defense, more specifically an exchange Slav, where on her 6th move Leela played bishop g4. The idea is to exchange Houdini's strong dark-squared bishop with this knight. For example, if Houdini would play now knight f3, then knight h5 would be a possibility and the bishop would be captured, even if it would try to avoid it with bishop g5. After h6, g5, bishop g3, the bishop will be exchanged. But after bishop g4, instead of knight f3, Houdini preferred f3, and after bishop d7, he played king f2. This is the first new move in the position, at least in high-level chess. People mostly tried before bishop d3 or g4. Knight h5 now doesn't work, but not because it loses a pawn. Leela would be very happy to give up that pawn if after e6 the knight would have to go back to c3. Then she could take the bishop and follow it up with queen b6, hitting both d4 and b2 in the same time. Eventually she would recover her invested pawn, but with interest, since now she managed to exchange the strong dark-squared bishop, d4 is weak and the white king is also more exposed. But after e6, unfortunately for black, the knight doesn't need to go back to c3. It can jump to c7 with check and get the exchange, and that would be very good for white. So after king f2, instead of knight h5, Leela first prepared the move with rook c8. Now knight h5 would work because if the knight would go to c7 in the previous variation, the rook could take it out, and Leela wouldn't think twice about giving up the rook for Houdini's bishop and knight. Since knight h5 is now back in the menu, Houdini stops that with g4. This takes away h5 from the knight, but also starts a kingside attack. There followed e6, h4, bishop e7, bishop d3, and castles. Leela is not afraid. King g2, and now h5, and Leela likes her position. Now, white can take on h5, because without the g-pawn, the f5 and especially the h5 square is weakened and can be occupied by black's pieces. Here the knight now jumps to h5 and it's very hard to drive him away from there. It's true that white now has an open g-file, but he's not prepared to make use of it. And black threatens to open up the center pretty fast with e5. And when that happens and the pieces will start flying around the board, the black king will be pretty safe, while the white king will have to run around the board scared, looking for some shelter. White can try a couple of moves here, bishop g3, bishop h2, knight e2 or knight h3, but the damage has been done already by taking on h5. One of the better defenses here is knight e2, rook e8, preparing to blow open the center with e5, queen d2, take the bishop, knight takes, and e5. Knight takes on d5, e takes on d4, takes, knight d4, rook d1, bishop c6, looking dangerously towards the king, bishop e4, knight e6, queen f2, bishop d6, rook d2, bishop f4, not minding giving up the strong bishop pair, since after the exchange the knight on f4 is a killer. King h2, queen f6, and only black can win here. His king is much safer. Since taking the pawn on h5 then would be pretty much like sawing off the branch you're sitting on, Houdini of course didn't take, but instead pushed back the knight with g5. But this also closes the king side a bit. After black plays g6, it's hard to break with these pawns. Rook c1, knight d6, knight h3, g6, bishop back, queen a5, knight f4, putting some pressure on these pawns, rook d8, queen e2, increasing the influence on b5, but still Leela now played b5. After slowing Houdini down on the king side, Leela now plays energetically on the other side. Taking the pawn now is not good. For example, knight takes, bishop b5, and now knight d4, attacking both the queen and the bishop. So white has to take the knight, and he will only get a weak pawn on d4 after the bishop recaptures. There is no time for tricks with knight g6 and queen e6 since the queen is attacked. And taking with the bishop first is also not much different. Knight takes on d4, e takes, bishop b5, and if now knight b5, then queen b5. And again, there is no time for tricks with the knight. So after b5, Houdini attacked the square again with a4. And I said square, not pawn, for a reason. The fight is mostly over the b5 square, not necessarily the pawn on it. For example, after b4, saving the pawn, Houdini would love to get his knight to b5. Taking the knight would be losing because after pawn takes on b5, the knight would have to leave from c6. And this knight is doing a very important job on c6. By attacking the d4 square, he prevents Houdini to play e4, open up the center, and allow the white queen to get into play. So the knight cannot be captured, and from b5 is attacking the knight on d6, and is already threatening stuff like knight h5 and then taking twice on d6. For example, if Leela would forget to calculate for a second and would play here a6, then after knight takes, bishop takes, knight takes on h5, bishop takes on g3, knight f6 check, king somewhere, and king takes on g3, she could resign. So allowing the knight to b5 is a big no-no. So Leela defended b5 with a6, and after the exchange of pawns, Houdini sacrifices a knight for two central pawns and the initiative. Leela was expecting first rook a1, queen b6, and only now taking on d5, harassing the queen and forcing it to b8. But Houdini went for the sacrifice first, and now because the knight takes away so many squares from the queen, he was threatening to trap it. There's nowhere to go. But Leela surprised him with bishop e6. She gives up her queen. After rook a1, bishop takes, rook takes, and knight a5, she gave up her queen and two pawns for a rook and two knights. She thinks it is better for black. The game continued with e4, bishop c4, d5, bishop back, queen e3, rook e8, threatening knight f5 and taking the bishop. Houdini exchanges the bishops, and after knight c4, queen d4, bishop g7, queen f2, knight e5, king h3, b4, and Leela likes her position. Houdini evaluates it as equalish. Leela was expecting now queen e3, b3, and queen takes on b3. She was intending then to attack b2. Instead of queen e3 though, Houdini played rook f1, and Leela's evaluation jumped up again. Now after b3 and queen e3, she defended the pawn and hung on to it. She now expected queen a7, queen c7 stuff to stir up some trouble, but Houdini played rook b1, considered to be too passive by Leela. Knight c4, queen e2, rook b4, queen e1, rook a4 going to a2, queen f2, rook c8, queen g1, and king h7. Now Leela was expecting an attack on the pawn to prevent the rook to get in, but Houdini played bishop back, and now after rook a2, Leela threatens knight d2, attacking the rook. So the bishop stops that with bishop takes on d6, knight takes, and now queen e3, attacking the pawn. Now, taking the pawn on b2 is possible, but Leela decided that it's best to keep both rooks on, and gave up the pawn, since after rook b2 she would lose the b3 pawn anyway. So Leela played bishop e5, f4 now would be very dangerous after bishop b2, rook c3 is strong. Houdini takes the pawn, and now rook a8, intending to double the rooks and invade the 7th rank. King g2, rook b8, queen a4, rook c4, and b5. The queen is trying to control c2, but Leela will double the rooks and get in anyway. There followed rook b7, king f1, rook c7, rook e1, rook c3, king f2, bishop d4, king g3, rook a7, and the other rook goes in decisively. Queen d1, bishop e5, king g2, rook a3, b5. White can't do much. Knight takes, rook f1, knight back, it wanted to go to c4, queen e2, knight c4, rook e1, rook b3, d6, bishop takes, e5, bishop takes again, queen a2, and finally rook b2, getting the queen. Queen takes, knight takes, and rook takes on e5, and the game is practically over. Leela is a knight up. How do you think she made it in the end? With a queen? Of course not. She made it with a rook. Great game nonetheless. If you are new to my channel, then please subscribe, like and share, and check out some other games too. Thanks for watching and see you soon.